The essence of basketball. I don't know if you can be a basketball player without experience.
All radio.
1 2 1 2 in the place to be. You are tuned into B-Ball Radio. I don't know what episode this is because it does not matter. We are in the company of Hall of Fame publisher Dennis Page, inducted in 2024 for his wonderful work with Slam Media. He is also the publisher of multiple magazines in the hip hop space. He's a friend. He's someone who at one point asked me to write for the publication some years ago. And we are joyous to have his company. My name is Bobito Garcia, co-host on the West Coast. Ooh, that rhymed.
New Eric Newman, and it is a bright, beautiful day. We are recording on Monday, March 10th.
There it
Fresh
is.
off of the Boston Celtics beating the Los Angeles Lakers.
Oh,
Dennis
man.
Page in the house. It's a beautiful day. Let's get it.
Yeah, and let me say that B-Ball Radio is the podcast dedicated to not just the playground, but also the pros, history and culture and beyond. Dennis, welcome. My brother, how's everything?
That is one hell of a introduction, I should say. glad to be here with you guys. Big fan of both of you, as you know.
Thank you, man. Appreciate that. We fans of you as well. E, you wanna do the inbound pass?
You know, I've always been a trusted inbounder, Bob.
Okay, cool.
Especially after a made hoop, because Dennis, as you can know, you can always run the baseline. So we've known each other a long time, and it's incredible when you think back to beginning in print media and then the whole landscape of everything changing and where this ended up. So before we get to the Hall of Fame and before we get into that deep, deep hot tub time machine here, I want to ask you, what was it like taking Slam from just in book print into the digital stage? Because that's what, of course, has us here today doing a podcast via plug-in headphones, remote headphones, Bluetooth headphones, computers, and phones.
I don't think Dennis was responsible for that. He's still got a rotary phone.
Exactly, I still do.
He still got dial-up internet in his crib.
Yeah. No, for real, when the internet came in, it was ugly. You know, we all saw it coming. I was definitely a doomsayer. It was not pretty. They had all these little, I was thinking about, I knew you guys would ask this question, like Hoops Hype, all these little kind of, they weren't even sites, they were blogs. I don't know what they were. The problem was they were bringing information out like in real time.
Yeah.
So I'm making my magazine. It comes out in 60 days.
Yeah.
I'm like, we're fucked. We just cannot compete with this. But business was still good. So I had to keep my left foot in the print medium and at the same time try and transition into digital. And honestly, it was super, super rough for not only Slam, but Double XL. Same thing was happening on all fronts for all magazines. So it was very difficult. I think here we are in 2024, and we do have a digital first, media company. But it was a hard transition and a lot of learning. And to do both was super difficult.
Well, I remember at one point, and I'm guessing this is probably like 20 years ago. Dennis, just correction, we're in 2025.
Correct. Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah. That's right.
And daylight savings time.
But, I remember Playboy magazine was at the brink of extinction. And, no matter how successful legacy publications were, the online was threatening to a lot, Slam included. So, but you figured it out.
Yeah, it was hard. It took us a long time. I had like 5 owners, so I had a new investor that helped me buy it back in 2017. I mean, I sold it originally in 2000, kept running it, but each subsequent publisher just honestly never gave a shit about it. It was a small piece of a big portfolio. So they didn't care. So come 2015, 2016, it was really, it could have folded. So, we came up with this investor, JDS Sports. They backed me to buy it back.
Oh,
And that
okay.
helped us get some new money and really hype it up and just do a much better job. We moved into merch, launched, tons of social media channels, YouTube, so on and so forth. So it took us a while, but here we are, 2025, and we have figured it out. But a lot of, Vibe, which you were associated with,
Yep.
doesn't really do print anymore. The Source, I have not seen a magazine in that. This is in my world. Rolling Stone, a lot of the print, if we go to a newsstand right now, I mean, the magazines are like 80 pages thick. So most, for all practical purposes, are, I would say, not doing well. As a company, Condé Nast, Hearst, so on, I can't really speak to that. But, we are alive and well. So it's kind of amazing.
So the print publication still exists
It does.
enough to make it make sense. Is it a break even, or is it a promotional tool for you?
No, I wouldn't. I think when I bought it back, we were thinking about loss leader and that concept. No, I think the magazine, makes a few bucks, but it is still the hub of the brand. The players still want to be on that cover. I always say that the cover of Slam, the cover of Vogue, cover of GQ, and maybe Rolling Stone, but I don't know, are really important covers to each respective, fan base.
Yeah.
So they want to see that printed copy. Use Vibe as an example. They're digital only. It's not the same thing. They post it, and it comes down. Complex is relaunched. I think that's digital only. So I think that physical copy, although not hundreds of thousands like we used to do, and the players get them. We do 4 covers for each issue, usually 1 women's and 3 top NBA or college players. I think they really appreciate that physical copy. They put it on their coffee table. So I think it does matter. But it's the most important piece of the business visually from a branding perspective, that cover. And it's everything else we do off of it, merchandise, brand partnerships. We just launched League Fits, which is started as an Instagram channel. We just put out our first print copy at All-Star Game out in San Fran. So that was a big deal, partnered with Google. So print still matters, I think, because it's so unique. And no one else. And most are not doing it anymore.
It's so funny that print would be so unique.
To me, I compare it to vinyl. I mean, we're both big music guys. I don't collect vinyl anymore.
Yeah.
But I started buying 45s when I was like 11 years old. And I see all that vinyl behind you.
Yep.
So is print like vinyl? Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Vinyl does well.
Interesting. So the 11-year-old Dennis Page, and I've never known where you grew up, and I'm going to guess that you're not from New York City.
Correct.
Just by your posture and your accent, which I've never been able to nail.
Yeah, it's Philadelphia.
You're from Philly?
No. I'm from Trenton, which is equidistant between New York and Philly. So I had the blessing of getting New York TV stations and radio stations and Philly radio and TV.
Wow.
So if you're a young kid in New York growing up, and I'm older than all you dudes, you had 3, NBC, ABC, and CBS. So I had 6 channels, lots of basketball games, lots of good radio stations from both spots. So I was blessed in that way. And New Jersey has good hoops.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm blown away. I never knew that you were from Trenton. This is
Trenton, NJ, baby.
And I, as much as I've traveled the world, I'm pretty unaware of Trenton's playground basketball scene. And I'm imagining it's super strong.
It was super excellent. One park called Cadwalder Park. That's where so there's this guy, Tal Brody. I don't know if Eric, Tal Brody, of course. Tal was an all-state first team All-State from Trenton High, him and this guy, George Lee. Tal went to University of Illinois to take Jerry Colangelo's spot.
This is in the 1930s?
This is in 1938. This is old. 65, 66.
Really? Okay.
But I'm a little kid growing up in Trenton. So Tal Brody, University of Illinois, All-State. George Lee, All-State. Best player in New Jersey. And he went to St. John's, flunked out. So Tal and George, another guy, Nick Workman, who was a year older, he went into Seton Hall. Nick led the country in scoring nationally.
Really?
Not as
out of Trenton.
Out of Trenton.
I love
Freshman
this.
did not play. So as maybe his sophomore, senior year for sure, led the country in scoring, like 6'4" center, an animal.
Wow.
So these are guys from Trenton, and then I'm seeing guys out of Camden. So it was Camden and Trenton High were the two best teams. And those guys later. This is before Milt Wagner.
Oh, this is way before.
This guy Rodney G. Smith. So that's Trenton. And then I saw guys like I grew up with, like Brian Taylor, who went on to Princeton, played for the Nets. Gary Brokaw, if you remember, went to Notre Dame. Also played John Shoemake, Kelly Tribuca. These are
Tribuca's from Trenton?
No, New Jersey. So I drive. Oh. My father would drive me to see these guys.
So you're a young dude who's like just passionate about basketball.
Yeah. Well, wait, hang on.
Are you playing as well, or are you just?
No, I'm playing like you. I'm in the park pretending. But wait, most important, when I was 12, Lou Alcindor came down to Trenton, Memorial. Played. I keep saying it's Trenton Catholic, but it wasn't. It's a school called Cathedral High. Sunday afternoon, 2:00. He took me to the game, and that changed my life when I saw.
You saw Lou Alcindor in the flesh.
It's in every interview I've ever done. The most dynamic, greatest high school player you've ever seen, because I didn't see Wilt.
And you have the Richard Avedon photograph that they license for an arm and a leg if you want it.
Right there, baby.
That is one of the most greatest photos in basketball photography history.
Correct. And Lou, let's refer to him now as Kareem.
Kareem, yes, absolutely.
Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. He is my desktop photo playing at Power. So hang on. So my father had a liquor store. If we're getting way off track, just stop me. So my father had a liquor store, and he would bring the New York Post home.
Yeah.
So that's where I learned about New York City high school basketball. So they had the all-city teams with, that's like, I can't even, certainly Kareem or Lou. Mm-hmm. And I forget the other guys that played around then. This is after Connie Hawkins, Roger Brown.
Yep.
But, mid-60s, mid to late.
Mid-60s. Great era. Fantastic era.
And then Kareem went to UCLA, and the rest is history.
Woo!
But I know all about the New York guys from the New York Post.
Right.
Because they had the little thing in the back, and they had their pictures with the stars.
You're like a b-ball head from jump, man. Love it. And how was your jumper?
My jumper was sweet. You know what happened? I couldn't see, man. Like 7th, 8th grade, I got my first pair of glasses. I thought I was like David Ruffin. But I couldn't see. So by 9th grade...
That's the Temptations reference, Eric.
Eric doesn't know from this stuff. Anyway, so I had a sweet jumper. I was a better football player.
Ah, okay.
Oh, wow. Yeah. What position in football?
Quarterback. Joe Namath.
That's easy.
So Namath was your guy.
Domain.
Namath was my guy.
Yeah. So who was obviously, I can't imagine what seeing Lou Alcindor, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Power Memorial was like. Who was the player, though, that you identified with the most being being a guard and, being
Come on, Dennis.
I gotta dig in.
Nah, Dennis, come on, say it. You saw Pistol Pete. In the flesh.
I forgot about Pete. Pete, every afternoon, Saturday afternoon, 2:00, CBS. That's when they had the SEC games. Yeah, Pete, I forgot.
Really? Yeah. So you watched those televised games?
I saw every game that Pete played on television. But they were Saturday afternoons. I remember Jerry Blavitt had his show. You don't know who Blavitt is, right?
Nah,
All
no
right,
I
point.
do not.
I was
Jerry
born in
Blavat's-
1966, so
We know
yeah,
that. We know
you
that.
you
No,
and
Jerry
I,
Blavat is the greatest disc jockey ever from Philadelphia. So he had a show on Saturday afternoons, like 1 o'clock. It was a dance show, and then SEC basketball. Pete came on. Pete didn't play as a freshman, so sophomore, junior, senior years, they played Kentucky. They always got the ass beat, but Pete was. I could never dream of playing like Pete, but he changed the game.
So when you're, what was it like watching Pistol Pete in his infancy as he's basically rewriting style that's available for public consumption? Because clearly there are players in New York and Philly that are doing that as well, but don't have the license to do that
Well,
in the
you
college
remember
context.
you don't see these guys. They're not on TV. There is no internet.
Right? No,
So,
I know.
yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
So you see national college games. College was way bigger than pros at that time.
Yeah.
So you had the Knicks on Channel 9 out of New York, and they were terrible till the good teams, 69 and
70. Yep.
so you would see them, and then UCLA. I remember also changed my life when I saw that they won the national championship. I guess that's Goodrich and Walt Hazard. So that's on NBC, national championship, Michigan, Cassie Russell, and you're watching that. And then I'm also seeing games from the Palestra, the Big Five. But there's no basketball really that you're seeing visually on television. I remember on Channel 11 in New York, they had Marty Glickman had like the New York City game of the week. So I do remember Boys High with Mel Davis. But I have like this black and white TV, and it's like all jittery and shit with what do you call
I love
those
it.
ear? The antenna.
Yeah.
But
Did you
I'm
have the
like-
pliers to change the channel?
bunnies,
like
the
old
bunnies.
Yeah, the bunny ears.
The bunny ears. The bunny ears.
I'm coming off as super old, but this stuff is like Bob. It's like but you're more in the park in New York. You can walk around and see this.
Yeah.
You have Cadwalder Park in Trenton that I have to ride my bike. So it's only what you see on TV, and then what you read, which is where I got my magazine bug from Street and Smith, Sports Illustrated. That was it. I mean, I remember Kenny Anderson in Sports Illustrated. Do you remember like the best high school players? 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And Kenny, I think, was the 7th grader at Malloy. So this is where I'm nerding out.
Yeah.
And learning all this stuff, and then reading the New York Post. But
Wow.
you're not seeing them hoop.
Right. I love this. Eric, I'm
no
sorry.
way to
I don't.
watch
I'm so charged up right now off of this
No, we keep going.
information.
This would be like a 2-parter.
No, Eric, I want to pass you the rock because I feel like I'm hogging the
Yeah, no,
I'm
we're
hogging
good,
the
we're
ball.
good.
Eric, jump in, bro. Jump
All right,
in. Because I have like 80
I'll
more
catch-
questions for him about
go
what it
ahead.
was like to.
Well, in the spirit of everything Dennis is sharing, like it's so interesting to track the mediums in which we're learning the game, being inspired by the game over the decades. So for me, it's the newspaper, it's local news, it's the introduction of cable, it's the brown cable box. With all that being said, like you mentioned Alcindor, you mentioned Maravich, you're in Philly, and Wilt is in Philly for a lot of the decade of the 60s before, of
But you
course,
don't
he ended up
see
going
him. He's not on TV. Yeah.
was going to ask,
Oh, he's not on
well,
TV.
what is Wilt's presence in Philly, and did you ever see him play? Did you ever see him play live?
No, never.
No.
And Will, I knew all about Will from Overbrook High. Everybody knew about Will. And Will, that's the debate. Is it Will or Kareem is the best high school player of all time? LeBron's number 2. Let's keep that like over there. So I never saw Wilt live, and he really wasn't on TV.
Yeah.
Those like Laker games. What's that? Laker West, Elgin, that team. They were all, but Wilt was
Goodrich too.
by that time. I'm not saying cooked, but you never got to see Wilt. I never got to see Wilt like in his glory.
Yeah.
Really,
Yeah.
very.
There's I'll send this to both of you. You will love it. There's I saw it last week on YouTube. 1972 conference finals, Lakers Bucks restored HD footage of Wilt going against Kareem.
Wow.
Wilt has like 24 points, 22 rebounds, and like 8 blocks.
Mm.
And they win that's the series they win to go to the finals, and that's the first title for the Los Angeles Lakers in 1972
Oh wow.
against the Knicks. So that's crazy. So Wilt's arguably greatest season is 1967 when they end the streak of the Celtics 8 straight championships,
Hmm.
and I think Philadelphia wins 67 games and they go on to win the championship. So
Are they the
none of
Warriors at
that.
that point, or are they the 76ers? They're still the
I
Warriors, right?
check. I believe. You know,
No,
Come on,
they're the
Eric.
Sixers.
my
They
computer shut down. I think they're the Sixers by then because the Warriors are
In
out
Golden
west. The
State.
Warriors
out
in San
west. They're in San
Francisco.
Francisco. Correct.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, they're
All
the
right.
Sixers. They're the
All
Sixers.
right.
Yeah.
Bob, I can't believe you made me question myself. That's crazy.
But
As I was negative 11 years old in 1967.
but
Negative 11.
here's the thing for all of us.
You were
You know,
an
we're
integer
little
age.
kids growing up as just like fanboys nerding out, and this is all how we became what we became. This is all
Absolutely.
the inspiration for how slam happens. Bob, for your career, E, for what you do. We're just young kids that took this fanaticism, and you were able to make a living out of it.
So then it's the 1990s early, right?
Right. Yep.
And are you publishing other magazines at this point? Are you an editor? Are you a writer? You're a
So
sexy, handsome man. How
sexy, handsome man for sure.
How does
this happen?
How does the concept of slam come to mind? Was it someone who like, hey, Dennis, you would be a great person to do this, or was it completely you're like in the shower,
Yeah.
like after shooting jump shots?
I've told the story 100 times. I always love telling it. So
Okay.
at that time, it's all right. At that time, I was at a publishing company called Harris in New York. My first magazine that I ever started and ran was called Guitar World. Okay. Yeah, check it out. My dream. So my first job out of college was for a weekly newspaper called the Boston Phoenix, which was like the Village Voice of Boston. Oh shit! Gotta turn that phone off.
He's getting another fax.
Yeah.
Yeah, another fax coming in.
You know, it's funny. Some of our listeners don't even know what a fax is.
Wait, should I stop and turn this off or what?
Probably.
So my first job, my dream was either to be a disc jockey, work at a record company, or work at Rolling Stone magazine. So my first job was at the Boston Phoenix in Boston, which is like The Voice. And that's where I learned the publishing business. I moved to New York, worked for a rock magazine called Circus, then started Guitar World for another company. So I'm now in the publishing business. I did that. I don't know shit about guitars. I don't care about guitars, but it was a good thing. But so I'm learning the publishing business, looking for other ideas. I had a weekly newspaper called New York Talk. I did that for 3 years. That failed. I was trying to compete with The Voice. There was
Did not know any of this.
Soho Weekly News, East Village Eye, all these New York papers. New York was popping. And none of that panned out. So I'm good friends with this guy, Alan Grumblatt, who worked at Relativity Records, which was a small little independent label in Queens.
Yep.
They put out Alan was my guy, and he had like a rock division. You know Alan from all the hip hop stuff.
Yeah.
So Alan was a super New Jersey Nets fan. I was going to say Brooklyn, New Jersey Nets fan. So he would give me advertising for guitar shit, Joe Satriani, all this stuff. Every time we hung out, he was like, we talked about hoops.
Yeah.
And the Nets and the Knicks and all whatever was going on, high school. And he hits me one day. He goes, yo, you should start a hip hop basketball magazine. I'm like, what? That makes no sense. I mean, what are you talking about? Is that like Belle Bivin DeVoe or Curtis Blow, or is this a magazine about all rappers that do songs about hip hop?
Yeah.
He goes, I don't know, just like figure it out. So I go home that night. I try and do my version of, I guess, the source with basketball.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that night, I'm doing a table of contents. That's how you launch a magazine. It's not working. Light bulb, literally that night. I'm like, no, it's a hip hop sports magazine, like SI or something. I'm like, no. It's basketball only, because Mike this is like 93.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, Mike is like the new rock. He's like a superstar.
Yeah.
Mike is like Michael Jackson. He's as
Yep.
big, Michael Jordan.
Mm-hmm.
And the light bulb went off. I was like, no, it's going to be a hip hop basketball magazine. And that's how the light bulb happened. Went into the owner of the company. I'm like, I want to do this hip hop basketball magazine. He's like, sounds cool. Go. Round up like some of the circulation people. And so that's October 93 ish.
Wow.
Literally had it out by January of 1994.
Amazing.
And the rest is history.
Amazing.
That's how it happened.
Aplauso. We gotta, Eric, come on. We gotta, editor, please insert audience applause here.
Well, think about the moment in time. He's inspired by MJ. It's a year after the Dream Team, and then you launch it when MJ's gone, which is so interesting.
So I get the go ahead. Then Mike retires. He says, I'm out. We were not going to go forward. I was like, I can't. Mike's on the first cover. I can't publish this thing. And then somehow, I don't know how, my little team, Corey Johnson was my editor at that point. Mm-hmm. He's like, nah, there's enough to write about, but it was really all Mike. And we just said, let's go forward. We're going to do, high school kids. We're going to do sneakers. No one had ever done national print about sneakers. High school playground. We had Joe Hammond in the first issue. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So it was the world of basketball as I saw it. It wasn't just an NBA Street and Smith thing or even Sports Illustrated. Yep. It was, what is this about? What can it be? And it was all the facets.
Right. It was expansive. Yeah. I actually wrote an article early in the infancy.
John Stockton, right?
Well, that was my first. But
that was your first article, yeah.
That was my first feature. But I wrote something about MCs who played ball. And it was sort of like the merger of like these ball players who came up in New York primarily, because that was my area of expertise, who became MCs. And, I featured Pete Nice of third base, who was all Brooklyn Queens.
Right.
I included Sadat X, who played D1 and then played at Hunter D3, but wound up coaching at Riverside Church, and of Brand Nubian fames, one of seminal groups of the decade of the 90s. I mentioned 6'7", and just other dudes who I knew, like Sed G from Ultramagnetic, who played in the CBA, and people were blown away. Like, I was getting such amazing feedback. They were like, "Oh my God! Like, these dudes play ball." I was like, like when you're from New York, that's your life. You might happen to rhyme and get a deal and put out records, but all these dudes, first and foremost, are ball players, which is who I am as well. And so I felt like Slam was going in a great direction with that.
Bob, if you look, the rappers wanted to be ball players, and the ball players want to be rappers. And it was that mix of that culture that made Slam happen. I don't know that Slam could have happened in '85. It was
possibly not. Yeah, it might have been too early. Yeah, might have been too early, but might have been like an incubator to expand people's minds about the connection.
This is key. That I'm very. I give a lot of credit to the source, and especially Vibe, because they showed me how to treat a culture and to write and do photography and talk about this in the right way. So they really paved the road for me.
Yeah.
And I just kind of took their template, just put basketball inside it, dope photography, cover the right stuff. And that made it easy. If the Source and Vibe had not done it first, I don't know that I would have been able to figure it out.
You know, the launch of Slam is at such a interesting moment in time in basketball, specifically the NBA, because Jordan is retired and because there's this next generation coming up, right? So you talk about how it got going. You're reacting to that world. You're documenting within that world. When did the light bulb go off that you guys have a chance to shape culture in that world, which clearly begins to happen in the back end of the 90s?
When we first started, no one knew who we were. We were outsiders. We had, me personally, I had no connection to the basketball world per se, and also no connection to the hip hop world. I'm just doing my guitar thing. It's kind of over there. And we just put it out. You know, first issue comes. We don't really know if it's sold or not for probably 90, 120 days. But the advertising community loved it. You know, Reebok, Foot Locker, a couple big guys came in and supported. They're like, oh, this is cool. But I didn't really have any credibility in that space. So advertising was good enough. Issue number 2 came out with, I think that's Sean Kemp on the cover. And now getting a little bit of traction. 3rd issue, I think, was Shaq. And now we find out first issue sold really well. The newsstand business at that point, you just kind of flood the newsstand and you hope that they don't send a lot of copies back. And that's how you tell if you have a success. You know, it's, maybe like a hit record. You play it, you try and get out there and promote it. It breaks in the clubs. Mm-hmm. It's a very kind of groundswell kind of game. No promotion dollars. You can't buy your way. And it just hit an audience that I had no idea that there were people like me all over the world that loved kind of hip hop and loved basketball as a culture. And it just took off. But we're really still an outsider. So we're building our team. Tony Gervino comes on. I bring Scoop on, I think, for issue number 3. And we add his voice to the business, and Scoop is out there, and no one had ever seen a writer like him that connected both with high school guys, NBA guys. And we were just like the cool kids on the block. And the players, and whether it was high school or college, whoever we were talking to, just really dug us. We weren't some bunch of corny dudes. So they embraced us. But the most important moment to me was the Allen Iverson Soul on Ice cover. We put that together with Iverson, took out his cornrows, blew out his hair, Soul on Ice cover line.
Who shot that? Atiba Jefferson?
No, Clay Patrick McBride.
Oh, really? Oh,
yeah, Clay shot that. Yep.
Yeah. Cool dude.
When we dropped that cover, I think that signified that we were legit. We were passionate. We were credible. And I always like to say that's when we went from covering the culture to becoming part of the culture. And still no internet. So now the players and everybody wants their covers and they're embracing us. So it was a different, sort of segue into how we're now covering, basketball and basketball culture.
So 99 Soul on Ice. And then I'm thinking, when is the first Kicks issue?
That's a good damn
2000,
question. I think 2000-ish.
Yeah, 2000. And street ball.
We had the Kicks section in the back.
Yeah, absolutely.
We were covering sneakers, like just whatever dope. We would take sneakers up to the Gauchos or Riverside, show them to the kids. What do you like? I wasn't really a sneakerhead at that point. I didn't really know what the hell was going on, but we're covering it. And sneaker advertisers are embracing us. Nike came aboard, maybe issue 6 or 7, and got to know the Nike people. And that first Kicks issue was really a Nike partnership. It was all Nike product, if you remember. So they sponsored it, came out with it, and the other advertisers, non-Nike, bugged out, and they were like, "This is not cool. If you do another one, we're going to pull out from Slam." So that's when we opened up kicks to all the brands, issue number 2.
Yeah.
So
First Kicks issue, September 1998, with Kevin Garnett on the cover, and it says every Nike basketball sneaker ever.
that's correct.
September 98.
2 guys from Nike partner with us to do it.
So we have something in common. I wrote the first article exploring sneaker culture in media history, and Russ
Correct.
Bexton called me lovingly the progenitor of sneaker journalism because of that. And then Kicks comes along, and this is predating, Soul Collector and
There was nothing. Yeah.
right. There's all the sneaker media that comes post that, right?
Correct. Yep.
Pretty incredible and visionary in so many ways. And then you also have the street ball issue, which is like another
Yep.
offshoot
Yep.
of Slam, and with success. You got
That was in
Warburg on the
partnership
cover.
with And1 as they got into street ball. They didn't really start as a street ball brand. They became that. They evolved into that.
Didn't know there was a partnership. So interesting because when I was the editor in chief of Bounce magazine,
Right.
which wasn't competing with Slam at all, we were strictly focused on playground outdoor basketball globally. But we one of the things that upset me, quite honestly, because of my diehard dedication to the asphalt, was that it was constantly this struggle with advertisers for advertorial to be disguised as editorial. And it's something that I don't think, if you're not in the industry, you're not very aware of, because if you're just a reader, some readers can discern like, oh wait, this feels like
it's an ad.
Yeah, this feels like an ad. Like, but most people, I think, just like, oh wow, cool, another magazine. So you seem to have walked that fine line without losing the credibility that Slam culture has created.
We had a lot of, I won't say power, but we were very firm. Before the internet came, we were really strong, and nothing was for sale, no covers, editorial, no real advertorials. And we were really in the driver's seat because we were the only way globally to reach these kids.
Yeah.
This kid is, whatever he is, 14 to 24 years old, that loves hoops, loves hip hop, buys sneakers.
Yeah.
So we had, a lot of leverage.
Right.
Early on. Then, once the internet broke the walls down, the world changed for sure.
Yeah. Interesting dynamic.
Yeah, for sure.
Dynamic. Yeah.
So many unique talents behind the lens, editorial over the years. We did that very special issue for the Garnett film to celebrate Kevin's career, and a compilation of old pieces being revived, new work going in. One of the highlights of that, though, and we did this for the PR around the film, we reunited Jonathan Mannion and Kevin Garnett for a photo shoot in April of 2021.
Wow.
And we did that out here in LA.
Mannion's a legend, bro.
Mannion brings back the shots from the Marbury KG cover shoot, and
Amazing
they lay
cover.
them out together, and we capture the moment. And unfortunately, it didn't make a scene in the film. It's incredible material. We'll do something with one day, but I bring that up because so many people either got started with Slam and grew their careers, and so many people, of course, had great careers with you guys. So for you, what are some of the highlights with working with some of this generational creative talent, whether it was writers or photographers?
Yeah.
It's even I remember on your pod with Scoop, and in a lot of books, a lot of articles, my thing was trying to recognize talent and letting them just go and do their thing. So Tony Gervino, Don Morris, my original art director, Scoop, obviously.
Yeah.
Scoop, when he handed in his first article and we read that thing, I was like, I had never seen writing like that about basketball. And me and Tony were like, I'm like, let it go, let it fly. So we gave everybody so much room. Russ Bankston, who else came up through here? Photographers. Atiba Jefferson is like one of the world's greatest skateboard photographers.
Yeah.
And he came to, I think, our art director at the time, Melissa Brennan. I don't even know where she met Atiba. She goes like, I got this skateboard dude. He's a Lakers fan. He wants to shoot some covers. I'm like, fine, go.
Yeah.
So, you know, Atiba, Clay Patrick McBride, who was really a rock guy. Mannion, I think he was shooting some Source covers, and I know him from the Jay-Z Reasonable Doubt cover.
He did a bunch of Vibe magazine covers.
And then a bunch of Vibe covers.
Yeah.
So again, you're looking at Sports Illustrated, and no one ran beautiful photography on sort of hip hop and or sports magazines. So I bit that whole photography thing from Vibe. They were shooting these incredible covers. Let's get the same guys and shoot basketball guys.
Yeah.
So that's where you have a Soul on Ice, Stephen KG, the Timberwolves cover, and just letting the players be themselves and letting the photographers dictate the shoot as well and just go. You know, there was no real limitations, and we just enjoyed. There was no real competition, and we just let everybody do their thing and, you know, write and shoot. And the NBA photographers, guys like Andy Bernstein or Nat Butler, they wanted to shoot for us because they could do whatever they wanted. At the NBA, they were a little more restricted in how they could shoot.
Eric, I'm going to ask you a question.
Go
Even
ahead.
though you're the co-host, what slam cover stands out for you?
Yes. What are your favorite? I'm gonna pose it to both you dudes. What are your favorite? I know my favorite 5. What are your 5 favorite, or 2, 3, whatever?
Anything Celtics would slam. You know, once they got good again was great.
Thank you.
Once they got good again, because it was so long.
Not a lot of Celtics.
It was so long. So to see you guys, well, we know what and Bob, when we paused for a moment, you know, the Celtics documentary series is coming out now, week by week, Celtic City, and I think a lot of the education is going to be that, you know, a lot of the things that were associated with the Celtics that were negative were really about the city of Boston and not the Celtics. So to see the convergence of the Celtics and basketball hip hop culture happening and happening in this very organic way, because now KG is in that uniform and Rondo is this up and comer with Ray and Paul. It was great to see that merging happen.
I would say Ray for Alston on the cover, you know, the best point PG in the world, and then the Shamika Holdsclaw cover went in the Knicks uniform. To me, those had so much cojones, is a Spanish word for, you know, for your you know what cojones means. Yeah.
No, we had. I don't think we knew better. We didn't. We were.
You didn't have to. You know what I mean?
We were doing so well. There was no competition because the Source and Vibe were also doing well. So hip hop and basketball and culture was phenomenal. There's no internet, so we pretty much did whatever we wanted, and still somewhat outsiders becoming insiders, and we just let shit fly. And it was just sounds good, go. And once I launched Double XL in '97, it was like bedlam. So I had 2 of these things just going. There was not a lot of time to honestly sit back, reflect, think, oh, was this a good idea, bad? Let's go.
Yeah.
So there was at one point we were monthly on both. So I'm just putting out 24 things. That's like every other week.
Yeah.
Let's go. Just whatever it is, sounds good, go.
I have to say, Double XL for the name of a magazine was absolutely brilliant. Slam as a name of a publication, absolutely brilliant. And I don't even think we think of it now because Slam has become
Right.
this own thing, right?
Correct.
Like
Yeah.
it's a
It
thing.
was hard. I thought initially it was kind of corny,
Yeah,
actually,
nah.
but I couldn't think of anything even close to
Yeah.
as good. And I was so desperate to
Hmm.
get going. I really thought someone was going to steal the idea. And
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I just got to put it out close enough. Let's go.
Yeah.
XXL took a long time to
Mm-hmm.
develop. Not to go off on that tangent, but I had a hard time finding editors. They're like, hip hop is a very closed world.
Yeah.
And if you're not part of it, I remember like talking to Chairman Mao and
Mm-hmm.
all kinds of people. That's for another pod.
Yeah.
People were like, nah, I don't want
Yeah.
to fuck with you. And I'm like, but I'm Slam. They're like, "No."
Yeah.
So that was very hard to launch.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But, we got it off and, had a good run with that as well.
Dennis, you mentioned you bought your first 45 at age 11 and that your dream was to be a broadcaster on a radio station.
Correct.
So in this world, right, why don't you share the one song that if you could curate a layup line?
I knew you were going to ask me. I'm ready.
Yeah, because
ready.
and you mentioned the Temptations earlier. You made a Temptations reference. I want you to know that one of my mentors, Butch Purcell, who coached with Peter Vesey, the West Siders at the Rucker Pro, that Julius Erving and all the greats of the era played for. He used to tell me that Cloud 9 by the Temptations was a big deal to play on the layup line at 55th and 8th Avenue in Harlem in the early 70s. So what would be your pick for the layup line, Dennis?
So that's a two-parter. I don't know if I could actually answer your exact question, but
okay,
because I know you asked Scoop the same question.
We did, yeah.
Scouting, Dennis Page scouting.
The thing I'm gonna tell you, the thing is, you guys are not gonna believe this, but the thing in terms of music and basketball and the layup line that blew my mind, and I don't even know how old I was. I might have been 5 or 6 or even 7.
Ooh, okay, doo-wop era.
Was first the Harlem Globetrotters
on
Wide World of Sports.
Yes.
As a little kid,
yeah.
seeing the circle with Sweet Georgia Brown and that version.
Yeah.
There's been nothing like that. Yes, the Globetrotters are corny as fuck and the Washington Generals. But if you do your research, the Globetrotters were the best team in the country back in like late 50s, early 60s.
Absolutely.
They put a whooping on the NBA champs. I think they beat the Minneapolis Lakers with George Mikan.
Yep.
They were serious. And then, later on with not Goose Tatum, what's his name?
Metal Lark Lemon.
Thank you. Yeah. Then it got kind of corny and more of a comedy routine. Mm-hmm. But early on, that circle, nothing like it. And that song stuck in my head. Yeah. And there's an old movie that you probably never saw called Go Man Go, which is a movie from, I think, the late 50s about the Globetrotters.
Oh.
And Marcus Haynes is in it. Huh. Sidney Poitier, I think, is in it.
Really?
And that was the coolest shit ever if you're 9 years old.
Yeah.
And then you start going to the games, Trenton High and stuff like that, where you start seeing. But music, honestly, way back, wasn't really a thing early on in the mid 60s, like layup lines.
Yeah.
I think that came a little later.
Amazing. Okay, Eric, I just said a pick for you. Come around.
I'm coming around.
Come on.
Feet are set, square in the shoulders, which you created, visual medium at such a high level. And where I sit in terms of making films and being such a student of that. So for you, with this growth of all of these basketball documentaries and some also great narrative films over the years, what is your What is your most? What is your? It's a combo of favorite and impactful.
Oh,
Wait, that's
Scripted,
hard. Is it documentary or film?
both. So give us one
yeah,
documentary
yeah, yeah.
and one narrative scripted film.
He didn't scout this out.
I didn't
He,
prep this one.
yeah.
Documentary. Wait, basketball movie. I'm going to go easy and just say Hoosiers and just get that. No.
Thanks.
Sorry.
Yes.
Hoosiers and Hoop Dreams. It's like a tie. One is more dramatic in Hoop Dreams, but Hoop Dreams is kind of
Documentary.
like a feature film, so it's a doc.
Nah. Hoop Dreams is a documentary, man.
It's a doc. All right, but
It's a doc, so you're good. You're good.
oh, I was just going to go with like Soul in the Hole or the Stretch Graham doc.
Oh, okay. American Game from 1979.
I remember seeing that in a movie theater
Really?
on 59th Street, the Stretch Graham one. I was the only person there.
Who was the Indiana player who was featured in that documentary?
I
You
can't
remember?
remember. Nope.
Yeah. His career didn't really do well after the film.
Yeah.
Do you know
There's
about
so-
that film, Eric?
He
I've
doesn't-
heard of the film. I need to see the film.
So if you're familiar with the Doing in the Park Pickup Basketball NYC documentary, of course, and we had a scene of Julius Erving playing against Ed Searcy, aka Skylab, James Williams, aka Fly Williams.
Ed Searcy Power Memorial, bro.
Yeah. Oh, really? Okay, cool.
And Jack Trimble, yeah.
and Julius is flying, and it's beautiful footage. That footage was from the American Game documentary by Tony Jones. Unfortunately, he passed away. I somehow got a copy of it because Stretch went to school with Tony Jones's son, Adrian Jones. So Stretch was telling me, like, yeah, crazy background. Stretch is like, yo, there's this documentary from the 70s about high school basketball in New York. You got to see it because you knew how much of a nut job I was. And so I had it, and then I contacted Adrian, the son, to get license rights to it, to include it in Doing the Park. And since then, it's been included in ESPN documentaries, on and on and on. I was thankful that I was able to usher that back into, awareness of, basketball filmmakers. I'm not trying to pat myself on the back, but
it's so obscure. And I remember seeing it in your film, and I'm like, I think I'm the only person that ever saw that.
Yeah. I didn't know about it when it came out, and I was already a diehard in 78 or 79 when it came
Bob,
out.
I got to put you on the spot if you don't mind. So, what's your favorite doc, other than Do It in the Park? Then,
yeah,
and Gunning for number one.
Listen, Gunning for that number one spot, I was proud to be a part of and contribute. Rest in peace to Adam Yauch, but I would not put it in best b-ball docs of all time.
No, okay.
It's
a tough question.
But yeah, I think Hoop Dreams would have to be the unanimous, because it was so early on, and clearly it wasn't the first. The American Game was the first to document high school basketball.
A bunch before.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So, but it's so
really dive in,
so emotional and so captivating and so challenging at the same time.
Right.
I would have to go with Hoop Dreams, and I don't think anybody's going to argue that. And
Eric,
and Hoosiers, I'm not mad at either, Dennis. It's between Hoosiers and One on One with Robbie Benson for me personally. Yeah.
Great flick.
Yeah.
Great. I thought you were going to say Sunset Park or something.
Oh, I love Sunset Park. My boy Seth Rosenfeld happened to help out with the screenwriting on that. Really well done, and I think underrated as a great basketball film. But anyway,
they're all good.
I would be remiss not to mention this is our first recording since Gene Hackman's passing.
Yes,
so
yes, rest in peace.
And I still have to go through my Gene Hackman grieving and celebration of work, because as a kid, Bob knows this, Dennis, I don't think we've gone this deep on cinema before. Like, as a kid, my favorite film when I was like 6 years old was The French Connection, which makes no sense at all, right?
Amazing.
So it's like,
yes, it does.
And then to see Hoosiers in the movie theater, and like that's the guy you're looking at in The French Connection, and now he's coaching basketball, and you're stuck on every word. And Bob and I did a Hoosiers dedication episode. I
Yep.
think one in the summer, Bob.
Oh, really?
Just
Okay.
talking basketball.
You would love
cinema.
it, Dennis. You would love it. You would love it.
And it's going to remain that much more special. And obviously, Gene Hackman lived a full life at 95 years old and an incredible body of work. But it's important for us to note that. I rewatched Hoop Dreams right before we had William and Arthur on to celebrate the 30th anniversary, and you guys, of course, were involved with them with the court dedication in
Yeah.
Chicago. And to rewatch that for the first time, I mean, since I've been making films and had the very fortunate, run that I've had in basketball content and storytelling, I would go back to it and watch some scenes, but to go back to it and watch it start to finish in preparation for our episode, forget holds up. It's like it's better now than it was 20 years ago.
I gotta watch it again.
It's magical.
Well, there you have it,
I
people.
think we covered it. Let me know when you want to do part 2. We just scratched the surface, man. It's a lot to.
No, this is great. Bob, take us out.
Yeah. So, people, this is B-Ball Radio podcast dedicated to everything from playground to pro, history and culture, and beyond. We have been delighted by the presence of Hall of Fame inductee Dennis Page for his blessing and sharing of Slam Publications and all of its assets, digital, print, and beyond. Dennis, thank you on behalf of me and Eric and our illustrious staff.
I love your show. I'm a new listener, and I'm catching up actually now. I gotta go back.
Listen to the Hoosiers episode. You're gonna love that one.
It's on my list.
Yeah, Eric, we got to do a episode about one-on-one with Robbie Benson and Annette O'Toole.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right, Dennis, be good, man. You want to sign out?
My pleasure,
Eric?
man. Thanks for chopping it up.
No doubt.
For sure. Special thanks to the entire team. Follow us at B-Ball Radio on social platforms. Check us out and subscribe to us on YouTube and share it with your crew. This is B-Ball Radio. Peace.
I don't know if you can be a basketball player without experience.
B-Ball Radio.